So Zoom is pretty cool. This morning I participated in a Zoom webinar for a lecture in Siberian ethnology at the Paris High School of Higher Studies, something or other. I don't know French very well. But anyway, in Paris University, there's a Siberian Studies Center. And I was on Zoom this time because one of my former colleagues from Aberdeen was giving a paper. Tanya Argonova was talking about Sacha carvings and figures that had made their way to the British Museum. And Sacha, you might, if you play Risk, you know where Kamchatka is, and you also know where Yakutsk is. So Sacha is Yakutsk. And so today I've been thinking kind of a lot about Aberdeen. And when my wife and I first moved there, we decided to go to the local church that was literally just a 5-minute walk from the faculty housing, which was a 1,000-year-old stone cathedral, and very charming in a lot of ways. But we're having a bit of trouble meeting people and making friends. And I asked our pastor about that, and he said, well, you know what they say in Aberdeen, when you break through the ice, you come to the granite. And it is known as the Granite City. It has actually the second largest man-made hole in Europe, which used to be full of granite, and then they built the city out of that stuff. And so it's really kind of hard in a lot of places. But the rocks are also really cool in a lot of ways. One of my favorite hobbies when I was there was visiting 5,000-year-old stone circles. So Stonehenge in England is not a monopoly on stone circles. There's hundreds of them just in the northeast of Scotland. And Scotland has this really cool law that they passed, I think just after we arrived, that basically said you can go anywhere on any land. It's not trespassing as long as you're not peeping in people's windows or ruining their crops or breaking down fences or anything. So if you're a good person, you can walk on farmers' land and go look at the stone circle. And so we did a lot of that, looking at the stones. But we also did a lot of wrestling with rock hard things in our backyard. So we bought a 170-year-old house, and the only reason we could afford it is because it wasn't really a house. We just had the second and third floors. Shortly after it was built, it was made a grocery store on the ground floor, and then the owners lived above. And then somewhere around 1900, it split into two different properties. And so we bought the apartment up above, but it was like a 3-bedroom house. And the backyard, when we moved in, was paved with concrete tiles, which is not really good for your 2-year-old running around. And it was even worse when we had like a 3-year-old and a newborn. So I can't remember exactly when, but I was able to give away all those concrete tiles. That was pretty easy to list on kind of a Craigslist sort of thing. But then we discovered underneath all of that was sand. So I got like a 40-yard dumpster, and a couple of buddies from work bribed them with pizza and beer, and discovered who my real friends were. And they showed up with shovels, and we filled up that dumpster with sand in one Saturday. And then there was more sand. But in the sand was also big chunks of granite that was rock hard and concrete. It seems like there had been a shed in the back that the greengrocer maybe had used as storage. And at some point they tore it down and they kind of just put it in the ground and then paved over it. So 2 more dumpsters full of stuff came out of that yard until we got down to what had been probably piles of cabbage, because right now it is black, fertile earth. You know, the grass just came shooting up after we got the sand and all that out. And then also at the same time, found some interesting bottles, Aberdeen milk bottle from the 20s and some things like that. But the working on that house took over a decade. We lived in Aberdeen for 13 years total. We bought that house after we'd been there a year. And we only were able to finish it about this time of year. It was kind of end of May. And we got the last room painted and everything all fixed up. And then we left that granite house in the beginning of August in 2016. So this year, we're celebrating our 10th anniversary of being Lancastrians. Thanks.